guys, this is Johnny Bergen back with another Chicago Blues guitar lesson, and this time going down to Memphis to talk about a true master of the guitar, Willie Johnson. Willie Johnson is definitely most famous for his work with Howlin Wolf and Sun Records, and then later on RPM and sides with Chess, or sides that were released to Chess. He also did some great recordings with Willie Nix, Sammy Lewis. I have to thank Don Deering for putting together a 92-song playlist of tracks with Willie Johnson on guitar. That was really fun and invaluable. And one thing that's really interesting is that I don't think he ever used vibrato once in those 92 songs, which is getting me to a main point about his style. The one thing that's in the history books kind of about Willie Johnson is distortion, distortion, distortion. Well, yeah, he had a distorted sound, but it was the way he used it. And using it with no vibrato and using it as kind of a third interesting tone along with the harmonica and along with Howlin' Wolf's unique voice, that was kind of what he did with the distortion that made it special. It's not really the distortion in itself. I mean, when it comes to gear and stuff like that, like I recently put a post on Facebook because I was going to buy either a distortion or overdrive pedal. I said, what should I get? I got 300 answers, all different. I don't think it really matters. It's just getting there. So I have a Bad Monkey set kind of medium or a little less than medium. And here's your test, right? Does this sound good? I think it's okay. I guess for some of the songs, he's real distorted, like Streamline Woman and Highway Be My Friend. So you could go a little more, you could go a little less. It's not really the most important thing. The most important thing is the way Willie Johnson kind of played to the distortion by A, not using vibrato, and B, by letting the notes hang. But let's go back to G and talk about his chords. Mostly, if you can play the G ninth chords and the G6 chords, this, he'll even go the same way you do this. When you do the ninth chord, try using your second finger on the low E string. Very T-Bone Walker and Pee Wee Crayton and so on. But he just goes, he made it really big and just let it hang there. That's just top part of the C ninth chord, right? 15, 15, and 15. And he contrasted it with these kind of like lightning fast things that he did. So that brings me to the jazz chords, right? And the jazz influence. A big influence for him was actually Johnny Moore from Johnny Moore 3 Blazers, San Francisco, like Bay Area blues sound with Charles Brown. You can really hear that on that Sad and Blue record by Earring George Mayweather. It's on the Chicago Ain't Nothing But a Blues Band anthology. Illinois Slim pointed that out to me, so I do need a little help from my friends sometimes when I put these lessons together. You can really hear him go nuts on the Johnny Moore style. He'll even do stuff like this. That's an A. He goes, that kind of thing. But even in Mr. Highwayman, you can hear the kind of thing that Johnny Moore might have done, except the thing about Willie Johnson is that he's playing it like the house is on fire, and it just becomes a whole new thing because there's, between Willie Steele, that's like the most primal drumming I've ever heard. Between Willie Steele on drums and Howlin' Wolf and just the urgency of it all, it becomes a new thing, right? But he plays things like this. Or I think I hear this note instead. So you're probably wondering, what is that, right? It's an unusual fingering for this kind of gut bucket blues. It's out of a C shape. Just to show you where we're at. You don't really have to play this chord. but your pinky's on the 10th fret of the A string, right? Making a C-shaped chord. And then you can take the pinky and put it up here. And that's just out of this, right? There's a million permutations of that throughout everything Willie Johnson ever did, because he is truly the ultimate master of ninth chords. I love the way he just takes his pinky and puts it on the 12th fret of the on the 3rd note of the chord. That's the 12th fret of the B string, and lets it sit there. He does that on the 5 a lot. Or that's another Johnny Mooreism, big time, isn't it? So he just went from this position, playing this kind of jazzy stuff that you just wouldn't associate it with this kind of raw gut bucket blues, but he was kind of playing jazz from the cotton fields, you know, that deep South jazz, you know, homemade jazz. So folk jazz, folk blues jazz. So I love that. And that was like kind of a new thing under the sun. So this is interesting. So that was over the 4 chord, right? And this is over the 1 chord. That fits perfectly into the 5, right? I love the way when he bends, he never bends up a whole step. He always bends up a half step. And always answers with that. You know, that's a lot on Highway Be My Friend and Streamline Woman, and you could hear this. I love that. I really like his playing on the slow blues a lot. So songs I really like by him, the 2 versions of Highwaymen, and then it's like Howlin' Wolf Boogie, where he goes, he like over this, he goes, which is a minor 6, 11 and 12. This is still in G. Those are all like kicks and accents and horn parts. All his chords are basically out of horn parts, you know. And you know, he never repeated himself, but he always sort of went between either chords, some solo notes, or these really heavy bass lines. I'm not doing that one right. But these real heavy bass lines, like on How Many More Years. And again, it's played in this really plain style where the notes really speak for themselves and do the work for you. So that's kind of Willie Johnson in a nutshell. There's a lot going on. There's his distorted tone. There's the way he uses it with the sustain and letting the notes speak for themselves and not using vibrato and sort of playing to the tone. And then there's his jazzy side, the West Coast influence, and then there's his aggressiveness, and then the fact that he never really repeated himself. That's why this lesson was a little more of just a chat about Willie Johnson rather than like, well, he did this, this, and this, because, you know, there's plenty of alternate versions of takes and stuff, and he just never repeated himself. He was just on fire. So if you enjoy this lesson, definitely check out my lessons on Hubert Sumlin that are previous in this playlist. If you like the music of Howlin' Wolf and Hope that you will subscribe to this YouTube channel, and see you next week. Thanks.